Do you know what you're risking if you don't comply with building maintenance legislation? It could literally ruin your life and your organisation, and is that something you want to live with? Hi, I'm Lisa, and today we will look at understanding your risks so that you can put the necessary steps in place to avoid drastic tragedies. The fatal fire that occurred at Lakanal House in 2009 is just one example of how severe the consequences of sloppy building maintenance can be for occupants. There are 5 major risks you're facing if you don't stay up to date with your statutory compliance. The first is prison time. Gross negligence manslaughter is the worst charge facilities managers or owners can face, as it carries a maximum sentence of 18 years, depending on how many lives are lost as a result of an incident. Gross negligence is a conscious and voluntary disregard of the need to use reasonable care which is likely to cause significant injury or harm to people, property, or both. Most commonly, this offence occurs when a person in an official position commits an unlawful act that they should have known would result in the death of another. In 2017, a Nottingham-based student lettings firm pleaded guilty to 5 breaches of the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order, and the director spent 3 months in prison. The most common outcome of non-compliance are financial penalties, which are usually served by the Building Safety Regulator. The same student lettings firm we talked about a second ago was ordered to pay a total of £190,000 in fines and compensation costs after the director ignored a prohibition notice served by the Nottingham Fire and Rescue Service following an inspection. In addition, in 2017, a building owner was ordered to pay £570,000 in fines after an uncontrolled fire consumed a large part of the Lakanal House tower block. The fire was directly attributed to poor fire risk assessment and maintenance practices. The building owner was clearly non-compliant with statutory building maintenance tasks. For example, the front doors of many flats were fire resistant but did not have smoke seals, allowing the smoke to spread quickly. Unfortunately, this missing element wasn't flagged in any risk assessment or maintenance works. Residents were given advice to remain in their flats during the fire under the assumption that the building complied with the latest regulations and legislation. Unfortunately, this was not the case. As a result of lack of smoke signals and other structures in the building, 6 residents died of smoke inhalation. When you don't comply with building maintenance legislation, the risks and outcomes are serious. The third risk you are carrying is a contractual breach. The Building Safety Act increased the regulatory burden on building owners and managing agents. You must be clear on your obligations within a contract to avoid potential disputes further down the line. Every piece of legislation has slight nuances when it comes to identifying the party who is responsible or accountable. You can outsource the work, but you cannot outsource the risk. Trying to do so increases your risk of reputational damage, which is risk number 4. Lakanal House was considered a model of compliance when constructed in 1954. However, poor controls during replacement and upgrade work, as well as failures in maintenance regimes across many decades, led to the building falling behind modern legislation. The building owner pleaded guilty to 4 offences under the Regulatory Reform Fire Safety Order. The legal case did not centre on the fire itself, but on the accountability to risk that existed in the building in the lead up to the fire. The focus was on the building defects that sat quietly in the background. These defects included serious breaches of fire safety measures throughout the structure, corridors and staircases in the building. There were no intermittent strips and smoke seals in fire doors that would have prevented the spread of fire and smoke, and no fire risk assessment existed for the building. The building owner only had a general risk assessment that covered their whole portfolio rather than this specific building, as that had been acceptable practice historically. Unfortunately, ignorance is one of the biggest contributors to maintenance-related incidents, but it's not an excuse in the eyes of the law, especially when it's at the expense of someone's life. One of the major problems we run into at SFG 20 is that many people are working to the old versions of the standard. They think they are compliant with building maintenance legislation, but in reality, they are taking huge risks within the buildings and assets they manage because they don't realise the standard is constantly updated to reflect the latest changes in legislation. Imagine holding up a paper printout of an SFG 20 maintenance schedule from 2019 in court as evidence that you take compliance seriously. What would the judge say? Your solution is to never get in that situation in the first place by ensuring that you have an active SFG 20 licence. The final risk is psychological damage. How would you sleep at night knowing people were injured or had lost their lives because of your poor decisions? How would you go about your responsibilities day after day without feeling the stress of continually flouting the law and endangering lives for short-term cost savings? It may sound drastic, but this has been the reality on so many occasions. Luckily for you, there are ways that you can avoid these risks and achieve compliance without it overwhelming your budget or your schedule. If you want to avoid prison time, huge fines and reputational damage, check out the video on understanding your compliance responsibilities.
Did you enjoy this video? Subscribe today to get the latest tips from SFG 20, the industry standard for building maintenance.